What's up, everybody? Welcome to our live coverage, I guess our post-event coverage of Apple's Apple Watch event today. I'm senior editor Devendra Hardawar, and hey, Sherlyn, this is Sherlyn Lowe, our reviews editor.
Hello, everyone.
Hey,
that was a crazy show.
That was a crazy show. We may look a little crazy. Sherlyn's hair may be like straight up because
I'm picking up signals from ET.
After the end of every news event, we are basically just scrambling, writing up everything, getting all the details. So hopefully you've checked out what we've done so far. Check out all of our coverage at Engadget.com. And yeah, we'll talk about today's event. One thing I'll say up front, hey, no iPhones. No iPhone. Yeah. And we kind of hinted at that. I feel like there were a lot of rumors going around online that this was mainly going to be an Apple Watch focused event, maybe iPad. If the invitation, it was called the Time Flies event. Yeah, that pretty much made it clear. So I hope you really weren't getting your hopes up too much. There will certainly be another Apple event soon, right?
Yeah,
what the rumors are October, I think, for Apple for
the
iPhone.
Rumors are that the launch was meant to be in September, maybe even with this event today, but delayed a few weeks due to COVID-related production issues. So for those of you in the chat who are talking furiously about the iPhone 12, we're all disappointed. We hear you. Yeah, we're all. I mean, but this is the world we live in now, right? We've got to understand that shit is hard.
Things are hard. Censor. Can we have a live bleep for Shirley?
Bleep. Bleep. I don't know. I feel like that's an okay word.
It's fine. It doesn't matter anymore. Censorship standards have dramatically lessened.
What a world we live in.
What a world. Well, so this is an Apple Watch event. It is all Apple Watch and also a bit of iPad too, and some cool stuff. Sherlyn, you're coming into this as mostly an Android person. I know you haven't had as much experience with the iOS stuff, but I really want your perspective because you can throw some water on our excitement here. And I'm sure the chat will appreciate that too.
I don't even know if there's like excitement for the Series 6. I think that overall, so let's like the first thing that Apple announced was the Apple Watch Series 6.
Yes.
Not that much hype, I think, coming out of here. We've not really seen the makeover that we were hoping to see in terms of of right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest
Are you excited about sensors, Sherlyn?
Yeah, the biggest news is the new blood oxygen sensor, and I like it, but it's not like we haven't seen it in the world of Android watches. Fitbit's been trying to do something similar,
right.
But this uses there's been inactive blood oxygen sensors, by the way, on the Fitbit as far back as the Ionic, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Which basically shoots infrared and red light onto your wrist and kind of measures the feedback to see the levels of oxygen in your blood. And it takes about 15 seconds to do. Haven't been able to use this on any existing smartwatch yet because, as we said, they've been inactive. And blood oxygen, alongside the new sensor, Apple also announced that it's going to start 3 new research projects around how blood oxygen and its other metrics that the watch is detecting will tell us what they will tell us about our overall health. There's also an asthma research project, which I think is very interesting. I know a lot of people affected by asthma myself, so it'll be nice to see what comes out of that. But
it'll be a good thing. And this comes alongside their heart rate monitoring too, which was the big thing over Series 4 and Series 5. And that's been a feature. It kind of sounded like Apple just really touting, really patting itself on the back, really like pretending like this was a big thing. But there have been a lot of cases, and they even highlighted some during the event, of people whose lives were basically saved by wearing an Apple Watch and having this tech and being able to detect early that, hey, you're having, very strange heartbeats and things like that. People went to the hospital, and the
Yes.
nurses said, hey, you're gonna have a cardiac arrest. You're gonna have a heart attack, basically. And the
Right.
watch kind of gave them that alert.
And I mean, again, we've said this before on the podcast and
Mhm.
on previous live streams that our senior mobile editor, Chris Velasco himself, was alerted to an atrial irregularity. I think it wasn't like necessarily an AFib,
Yeah,
atrial
yeah,
fibrillation, but he went to the ER, got his heart checked out, and realized that he needed to do a full reset to get his cardiac rhythm going again in the right way. So, yeah, I think that the heart rate sensor on not just the Apple Watch, but on a lot of other devices to
Mhm.
help people. And so maybe a new sensor like this, like for the blood oxygen sensor, will be
Mhm.
helpful to us too in time. And I think it's worth getting excited about. But right
Yeah.
now, not a lot of people know what to do with it.
Sure. I think the thing about this data, and we see this in a lot of health devices, is that it's great to have these numbers. It's great to have these sensors giving you pings and, saying you've hit this amount of blood oxygen or something, but we don't know what that stuff means. And I feel like a lot of these companies, Fitbit took a while to kind of start taking the fitness data it was getting and things like this and actually present it in a usable way for consumers. Actually, if you remember, I really miss Jawbone. I talk about Jawbone all the time, but like the
Yeah.
Jawbone up and the way they presented a lot of that fitness data, their sleep data was really cool and really useful. So I think that's Apple's big thing here, even though
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
devices have had blood oxygen monitoring and sensing. It seems like with the latest Apple Watch OS and everything, like it seems like
Mhm.
they are really building in a way to constantly monitor your blood oxygen levels. They're even going to ping you if you're wearing this as you sleep. It's going
Yeah.
to monitor your levels overnight too. That could be really useful. It's a good sense of like overall health. And I feel like that's the big thing here. Also, another big thing with Apple Watch Series 6 is a lot more colors. So many more colors. I guess people are excited about that. We have there's a blue, there's a gold. What is it? I have a couple different things here. They're available in the different metallic I don't know finishes of
Finishes.
this. So yeah, they
Yeah.
all cost different amounts. And then there's the product red version, which is all red and
The
honestly
product
kind
red
of hot.
version, oh, it looks so
It looks
good.
good.
I definitely
Yeah,
felt it. Um, I want to do a quick shout
sure.
out to the people who are watching us right now. We see your questions. If you have any questions related to the Apple Watch Series 6 right now, please drop them. We are obviously going to address the rest of the things that Apple announced, including the iPad Air. A lot of people are very excited about that. But yeah, some people like Speak Out Remove All Doubt, that's your username, was talking about how they have SPO2 monitoring on their $25 Huawei band. And yes, there are
Sure.
a lot of Chinese fitness bands that do a lot of these so-called advanced tracking or advanced sensors already for a lot cheaper. And the Watch Series 6 starts at $399.
Yeah.
So it's still very much Apple's flagship smartwatch. And really the new stuff you're getting is stuff that is already somewhere else in the industry. I mean, there's also the constant elevation tracking with the altimeter, which is nice if you're constantly climbing up and down, you know?
If you want to know, so Apple Watch can tell you, hey, you're on a hill now. Like, watch out.
Just
Watch
in
out
case,
for this
well, like
hill.
this is how high
Okay.
you've climbed, 1,800
That's
feet,
good. I
something
feel
like
like
that, which is nice.
more what's really fascinating is more of these things are becoming always on. The screen is still always on. Like the last gen, they say it's 2.5 times brighter too. So that's
Right.
useful for outdoor stuff. It's
Yes, but
functioning more like an actual watch, right?
yes, and to no
Mhm.
one's surprise, Apple did not mention anything about the battery life here. And the Apple
It
Watches, they
charges
don't last long.
25% faster
Good
because
for
you'll probably have to
you.
charge it a lot. So
You probably need to. Apple
yeah.
Watch's battery life, from what I can tell and have heard other people say, is it lasts between 1 and 2 days depending on use,
Yeah.
which is okay. I mean, if you want to get into the habit of charging your watch as often as you charge your phone, sure. But a lot of
Sure.
other devices from Fitbit and Garmin last 3 or 4 days or up to a week on a charge. I
They're
think
different, but they do like Fitbit and
they
Garmin
do
stuff.
less
They
things
do
for
less,
sure.
and they are really fitness focused. Whereas the Apple Watch is like a more overall competing device that apparently can save your life too. A couple other things we should mention: they announced a new Solo Loop
Yeah,
watch band,
that
which is
was so
really hot.
interesting.
Yeah, it looks cool, and a braided Solo Loop. That looks pretty cool too. It has like this almost like it's a nylon braid, so it's kind of like a
Yeah.
mesh-like finish. I've been looking for new Apple Watch bands just because I to spice things up. I like to change things up once in a while. I'm still
Yes.
using like the orange one that came with the Series 4.
Ooh.
Yeah, these sound exciting, and there's some new family features too. Easier setup. easier setup for
Yes.
kids and
Yeah.
elderly folks. I'll tell you, setting up an Apple Watch is not easy. It's honestly, frankly, annoying because
Yeah.
you have to download the watch app. You have to like point the phone. You have to point your phone, the Apple Watch, at like the barcode that appears, and then it's like a lot of setup, a lot of updating, and a lot of choices you have to make. So, anything they could do to streamline that, I think is going to be better for everybody. And yeah, the idea is that hey, you could buy an Apple Watch for your entire family, your kids, your dad, your grandpa.
So
Yeah.
I thought that news was really cool. I mean, like, let's quickly talk about the two pieces of news I think you're referring to here. One is that there's an Apple Watch SE. It's going to cost $279, or apparently with financing $12 a month, and it's pretty much got a lot of the same features as the Watch Series 6, except for a slower processor, an S5 instead of an S6 on the Series 6. And then it's got, it doesn't have the blood oxygen sensor, doesn't have ECG, but it will, because it's running WatchOS 7, feature fall detection and emergency SOS to your contacts. So, I mean, it's still not that cheap, honestly, like $279. All right, thanks, fam.
Pretty
but
like it has the style. It has the style of the Apple Watch Series 4, which is that beautiful big edge-to-edge screen.
It's a nicer, right?
It's
a
really
more
nice.
modern look. Yeah, for sure. For Apple's watches, it's a more modern look compared to the only other Apple Watch you can get new, which is the Series 3, and it starts at $199, and it uses a much slower chipset. It's got a smaller display, so it's a little harder to interact with. But anyway, so there's the SE for those who don't want the high-end, top of the line flagship.
It's a good mid-range price. I feel like it's a good sweet spot too, because I feel like the SE and the Series 3 are kind of competing with the Fitbit stuff, right? For people who just want a fitness gadget and not like all the fancy health stuff.
It's so interesting, honestly, to see all of this happen, because, Fitbit just announced its own like Sense smartwatch, which is meant to go against the Apple Watch. It's $329, it's $70 cheaper, but Fitbit doesn't have like a full-fledged OS the way Apple does. So it's really interesting to kind of see like they're all trying to attack each other, but coming at different angles.
This is how competition works, and it's great. You get cool new devices because of that.
It is really good. So anyway, the SE, very interesting and nice to see Apple consider a lower cost option, even though it's not that much cheaper. But the other thing that really got me interested was when they announced family setup. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
So the premise with family setup is that you can use your phone to set up Apple Watches for other people that might not have an iPhone. So this is targeted to like parents who want to set up their kids with watches, or their elderly parents with watches, and just want to take care of the hassle that you just mentioned, Devendra. And I thought that was really interesting. At first, when they were leading into this topic, they were like, oh, some people might want an Apple Watch but don't have an iPhone. I was like, Android compatibility?
Yeah, maybe? Android.
And it's never happening.
I could see, honestly, I could see Apple doing it. Listen, like just this year, and was it last year, they announced, Apple TV stuff going into TV apps. Like you can find the Apple TV app now on LG TVs, Vizio TVs, like a bunch of places. For Apple to succeed in that space, they kind of had to broaden, their apps a little and let more people have access to it. What the Apple Watch does, there's a lot of back and forth between the Apple Watch and your iPhone, but there's nothing that is so concrete and so specific to the iPhone that it couldn't do Android compatibility eventually. So I could see that happening down the line.
Here's the thing, and I see some chatter in the live chat that's questioning whether or not like I like the Apple Watch in general. I've called the Apple Watch like the best the smartwatch ever. A few times on record, so you can go back and look at that. The Apple Watch, I think, for people who use iPhone, is the best because it's so well integrated into iOS. Like Apple really nails that cross-device communication, and Siri on the watch, I think, has been better than Assistant on Wear OS. Like let's not even talk about Wear OS.
Let's not talk about Wear OS. Yeah. Here's the thing: is that Wear OS has been so bad, other smartwatches have been so bad. If Apple was even like, "Hey, we'll give you basic." Syncing and compatibility with Android users would jump all over these devices,
We might. And the thing is that like there's a difference between using the Apple Watch with the iPhone, just as there is a difference with using an Android Wear watch with an iPhone, right? There are certain things that just don't cross that way. And basically we end up in what some people are calling out rightfully so walled gardens.
Sure.
So then you have these like third-party players like Fitbit and Garmin who don't really know how to make full-fledged OSs that talk well with their smartphones. So I don't know. It's
But
smartwatches
the
are
walled
fun.
garden, like we're going to move on to the other stuff, but the walled garden is Apple, right? Apple's the one that restricts other devices from doing too much
Yes,
with your OS.
like that's
Whereas
why it's hard to
if
for wear
they
OS to
launched
like
an
come to life.
Android, they could do whatever they want, because Android is so open. Android
Very
is so
open.
flexible. I feel
We'll
like Apple
see.
just doesn't want to play with Android,
We don't know what's gonna happen there,
First,
and
we
that was
get
never
Android,
talked about on this show.
iTunes on Android, right? We'd get that
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. Well, if I think they're retiring iTunes, but we'll see. Anyhow, those were like there's a lot of watch stuff that was announced. I don't know if anything about the SE jumped out at you, Devindra, or the family setup stuff.
I think it's
I
the
do want to
price.
shout out
Yeah.
the price of the watch, you mean?
Of the SE. That's a good price for an Apple Watch.
Yeah. 279 is, a lot of Fossil smartwatches come in at 300. So 279 is a good starting price. It's definitely competitive. I was curious. I was actually quite intrigued to see Fitness Plus being launched, which sounds like it wants to take on Peloton.
Sure. Apple's all about
Yeah.
services these days, right? So Fitness Plus is their new subscription thing where you get sort of virtual workouts and things like that, and data that's going to be tracked on your device. And also, I believe if you do it on the Apple TV, your Apple TV will get a live feed of your device's data too. All the data is being stored on your device because Apple is always so gung-ho about security. So that's also, all that work is being done locally. It seems cool. And a lot of people, especially now that when they're stuck at home, they're looking for fitness ideas. They can't go to the gym. It seems smart. Yeah.
So let's put it all in context, right? So the Fitness Plus thing that Apple just launched will go for about $7.99 a month, which compared to Peloton, which is about $12.99 per month if you do it without a bike or one of their machines, is a lot cheaper. And I believe there's one more that was $9.99 a month. I'm going to double check my notes really quick.
Are you sure it's $7.99 a month or $9.99?
Fitbit Premium is $9.99 a month. So Fitbit Premium is like their whole also like all access to all these features, including coaching and workouts. But yeah, it's cheaper, which is nice, and you get 3 months free of Fitness Plus if you buy a new Apple Watch. Which some people are saying the trial should be longer. I guess.
Just to be clear, just to be absolutely clear, though, here, Fitness Plus is $9.99 a month.
$9.99, yeah, $9.99, and Fitbit Premium is $9.99. Peloton is $12.99.
Yeah, that's a little better. Yeah,
a bit. It's the same price as Fitbit Premium, which is, but I think it looks like Apple offers more than Fitbit might, so that's nice. And the ability to talk to your TV and have your watch track data from your other treadmills and stuff like that, that's not new. Even my ClassPass videos, I can strap on a heart rate monitor or a watch and sync that to the app so that they can keep track on it, off it or something. Yeah. But it's, again, Apple branded.
It's the seamlessness too. It's not just about is this new or not? It is how easy is it for to use? And I don't know how easy those things pair up with other apps.
Right. And you have to use you can even start a treadmill session on Fitness Plus with Apple Gym Kit enabled machines. So there's an Apple Gym Kit, which is a name I don't think we've really heard talked about a lot.
No, that's new. That's all new. Yeah. And by the way, this is all part of a big service push for Apple too, because there's also Apple One, right? Well, first of all, is there anything else you want to say about Fitness Plus before we move on to Apple One, Trilin?
I mean, I think it's interesting, and but that's another service I may or may not sign up for. That's it.
Yeah, and Apple does not have the best track record of services too. Let's talk about Apple One, which is the thing they just announced. It is $15 a month. For individuals, it includes Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Arcade, and 50 gigabytes of iCloud storage. And that's for $15. That's not bad, I'd say. And I'm sure a lot of iOS users would jump on that. For families, it's $20 a month, and then everybody gets their access. There's also the Premier plan, which is one that I think is maybe a little crazy, but it's all of that stuff plus News Plus Fitness Plus plus.
Wait,
and 2 terabytes of iCloud storage.
You get 2 terabytes. Okay.
2 terabytes for $30 a month. I hope
Wow,
that
that's a
that
lot.
includes the entire family too. But if you're an Apple heavy family for $30 a month, you get all these services. That's not a bad deal, especially if it means your kids aren't going to be downloading a ton of games anymore. The
Sure.
games will be part of Apple Arcade. For individuals, I feel like that's way too much. And this seems like a way to save Apple News Plus, which exists. I have not heard about that since it launched. So to me, that feels like an absolute failure. But I don't know if you have any feelings about all of these things, Sherlyn.
I, being the Android person, and obviously the people in the chat are gonna be like, she hates Apple. I don't hate Apple. I just gotta tell you what else is out there, which is Google One's also out there. And I subscribe to Google One because I do need that extra storage for all of my stuff. And it gets me a lot of services I don't really use a lot. So I suspect
Yeah.
News Plus is one of those that might fall to the wayside where you pay for the storage and you don't necessarily need the subscription to News Plus, because apparently like they also don't have didn't the New York Times pull out recently, or I think it
I
was
have
a
to
big
double check
name
that. Yeah.
publication that withdrew its content from News Plus. So there's some trouble there in News Plus land. But I mean, again, like you said, Apple is pushing services as a thing because maybe that's just easier to sell.
The future of services, people. Like, look at what I just wrote up a piece about the Xbox Series S and what Microsoft is doing about that. And that thing is a great deal. Microsoft is selling that with a monthly loan plan that includes their game subscription service. And hey, that means
Mm.
you're paying them, for forever, basically, to keep access to this. And that's the same thing with Apple. So rather
Ties
than
you
buy a
in, yeah.
device and walk away, right? You're paying consistently 20, $30 a month. That's great for Apple.
Yeah, Apple would love that. Some
Yeah.
chatter in the live chat pointing out that from D-Man, Apple One is nice, but there's almost too many choices. iCloud storage seems to vary within the tiers too, so it seems to border on being too complex. Definitely. I mean, I again am not super up to speed on what Apple One necessarily offers in terms of the storage differences.
Yeah. Well, right now
But yeah.
it's the things we mentioned, right? So it is 50 gigabytes for the individual plan, $15 a month, 200 gigabytes for the family plan, $20 a month, or 2 terabytes for the premier plan, that's $30 a month. So
That's
three levels,
nice. Just that, like, I just am like, okay, Google's plans start at $2 a month. So like there's a really good,
Sure.
very, very cheap option. So
Because
give me
Google's a
more
data
options.
center company. Yeah. I do feel
Also,
like
yeah, true.
Apple has always been stingy about iCloud storage. And here's the thing is
Yeah,
that, yeah,
very.
always very stingy. It always costs too much. And when you have an iPhone or an iPad or whatever, your backups go to go to the cloud and take up that storage
Immediately.
too. So
Yes.
in a way, if you want a safe amount of backups, you have to pay more for storage
Yes.
anyway. So I feel
You
like
almost have to. Yeah.
just for that, just to cover your backups, I feel like you'd be paying for this anyway. So hey, that's good. That's good for you, because if anything bad
Yes.
happens to your phone, you just
I
hit a
just
button and it downloads.
I'm just frustrated. Anytime I set up a new iPhone, back in the day, I was an iPhone girl. Like I used to use iPhone 6 years ago. Anytime I set up a new phone, my iCloud storage would just immediately be full. That's it. Like just, hey,
Sure.
you ported over your stuff, gone. It's gone now. Bye. Like, good luck. So I get the frustration at the base level 5 gigs being way too low, and Apple's basically forcing you to pay upfront if you want to back up anything at all.
They really need to upgrade that all around. Yeah.
Yes. A lot of people in the chat seem to be far more excited for iPads, by the way.
Hey, iPads sound good, and I like these iPads. Like the base iPad, the 8th gen base iPad is still $329, but it has the A12 Bionic chip, which was in the iPhone XS. So the base, the cheapest iPad is a lot faster now, and the chip that was in there before was very old. I believe that was in the iPhone 7. So this is a good entry level tablet for a lot of people. And I'll tell you, I bought the base iPad like 2 years ago. It has become like one of the things I use the most around the house, especially with having a baby, being able to give her Sesame Street immediately if there's a tantrum, or connect her with her grandparents over FaceTime with the touch of a button. Like, it is useful to have a big screen and that's smart and connected like this. So base iPad, a great device. It's even faster now. I feel like that's going to be a great thing for a lot of people. Yeah.
I want to point out it doesn't support the latest generation of the Apple Pencil. So if that's what you're looking to get it for, you might need to reconsider.
Yeah. No Pencil on this one. Sherlyn, how do you think this compares to, what we're seeing from Android devices? Yeah.
So I think the most obvious competition for that base Android is a base iPad is Samsung's cheaper Galaxy models, so the Tab S6 Lite or even the Tab S7 that was just announced. Build wise, those bezels are still kind of thick on the iPad, but it looks
Some of them.
nice. I think
Yeah.
performance is good. I have a lot of like real life friends who I ask for their real world opinions.
Sure you do. Okay.
One of my friends is a digital artist, and she,
You know, if you emphasize it like that, Shirley, I can't
know.
believe you.
Looks like I pretend. Look, so she recently gave up on Android, Samsung's Note line, and moved over to an iPad for drawing. Her answer to me as to why she did that was because of apps. And I think Android has so much to do on that front to catch up. All the apps that my friend
Do you think they're ever going to catch up at this point, though? It's been nearly 10 years of Android apps, and I've been sitting and waiting for them to really catch up. And yeah, it's really only Samsung who's making good premiums, and then Amazon with the cheapo Fires, you know, and that's it.
Yeah. Google really has to work on getting these apps not only in their ecosystem but also to work really well.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done a good job of getting partners to make very good hardware. Like Samsung makes really great Android tablets, for example, but the software just feels like it's lacking sometimes. And so when I hear things like my friend, you know, giving like she's a hardcore Samsung Galaxy Note phone fan. Like she's been the one that's come to me for like she asks me about what's going to happen, and she gave up. So I was like, all right, well, that's bad news for Android tablets, but the iPad, I mean, I can't knock it. It looks like it's a really good device, the base generation.
And by the way, the base iPad still supports the Gen 1 pencil, just not the new pencil. So you get you get some pencil support. You know, there's
quick thing that people are talking about in the live chat, by the way, is storage availability in these models. Apparently, and I'm going to double check this right now on the press release, is that it starts at 32 gigs of storage. Which is really, really little if that's really the case. So I'm about to double check that. But go on, Dev, you were saying
Apple being stingy with storage, like would not be surprised. But here, the iPad I'm still using for the past years, I think is also 32 gigabytes. And if you're using these things mainly for streaming video and, you know, things like that, like streaming, where you're not downloading huge apps and you're not like downloading a ton of videos, it's perfectly fine. I just feel like any new device these days, you want at least 64 gigabytes of storage. Come on, Apple.
And you know what's that's so silly because I just checked and confirmed that yes, the base model starts at 32 gigs.
Yeah.
And starting price is $329, which is okay but not cheap.
Sure.
And then it jumps right up to 128 gigs. So why don't you start at 64?
Man, and then would you pay $429 for the 128 gigabyte iPad 8th gen when the iPad Air is right there for a little more, starting at $599, and this new iPad Air looks really hot. What do you think?
Oh my gosh,
colors?
I think I cried when I saw the green. I cried out of like, oh my gosh, when I saw the green, because I was like, that green is gorgeous. Honestly, that's the color I've been waiting to see on devices, not Mystic Gold or Bronze. Sorry, but other
like
than that, I
mean, green, yeah,
that like minty, almost pastel jade-ish green. Anyway, you know, I don't want to be superficial and only focus on the colors. This thing,
colors are good. Yeah,
colors are great. The new colors are very nice. The build of an iPad Pro is almost
basically it has the more flat edges of the iPad Pro 2, and the better screen tech. I believe the higher refresh rate supports the new keyboard stand, which is the weird thing where it can lean on. You know, this seems like this is a straight up more of a Microsoft Surface competitor, I feel like, than it ever was before. It leaves the iPad Pro in a place where that's really only for people who really, really need, you know, the most powerful tablet available. Whereas this Air seems fantastic. Yeah.
I almost feel like the Pro is still a very good Surface competitor. It's probably the high-end Surface competitor. And you've got this guy, the Air, that's like not just a Surface competitor, but also a Tab S7 Plus competitor, which is like, again, the flaws of Android we know very well.
Sure,
but if you're talking about build, and I've touched the S7 Plus for a while, and the build quality of that thing is also gorgeous. It's also very reminiscent of an iPad Pro. So I think, you know, there's more competition than just Surface here, I guess that's what I'm saying.
And so what else is new in here? The A14 Bionic, which is a new processor
oh my gosh.
from Apple. this is kind of crazy because normally we wait for Apple to announce a new iPhone and new iPads together, and the new iPhone is the one that debuts the chip. Now they're using the iPad Air. This is where you can really tell, like, maybe there were some delays on the iPhone
Yeah, I
front,
was
but
gonna say.
now we're seeing it first with the iPad Air, which is not even like the flagship iPad. It's just a nice mid-tier version. But hey, this chip, it sounds very powerful. It sounds like it's more efficient than before. It's their first 5 nanometer system on a chip. It'll be super fast. We're calling it kind of like the
5 nanometer,
iPad Pro
holy crap.
Mini. Yeah.
Wow, wow.
Hmm.
That's crazy. I mean, yeah, to your point, I absolutely thought when they announced the A14 Bionic would be on the iPad Air, I was like, oh, this was meant to be an iPhone event, and then they
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
strapped the iPhone.
Or at least this
Um,
maybe should have come after the iPhone event, but who
but
knows?
it's also not as if Apple hasn't
Mhm.
done this before. I was watching a Rene Ritchie video a while ago that talked about Apple's history with making its own chips, and I think
Mhm.
the very first A something chip debuted on an iPad. So it's not
Yeah.
as if like Apple doesn't think of the iPad as where it wants to debut its new chipset hardware either. So it might not be actually
Hey.
supposed to be for the iPhone. We don't know.
Yeah. Let's
We're
talk about
getting
the Air,
questions.
though. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we're getting questions on the chat about the refresh rate. I'm going to confirm if the refresh rate is indeed 60 or 120 hertz, but it looks very smooth, right?
I think last time it was at least 90, so I think they had
Mhm.
already done that before. But yeah, go ahead and confirm that.
Yes.
Do want to point out that this one is starting at 599, whereas the last one started at 499, which that's a little disappointing. I feel like this would be more compelling to me at 499. But hey, the 599 one comes with 64 gigabytes of storage. For 256, you have to spend 749, and then you're so close to the 799 11-inch iPad Pro that's 128 gigabytes. So at that point, I don't know. Then you're choosing storage over the cool iPad Pro tech, I guess. Yeah.
And the iPad Pro also just seems to have a lot more features that might help
Mhm.
people. And the iPad Pro definitely has a 120 hertz screen. From what I'm seeing, it seems like the iPad Air. I'm still checking. Apple is not being very forthcoming in its news release, but probably the spec sheet will have a bit more for us. We got a few questions. We had a question that I missed earlier about what the differences between the Apple Watch SE and the Apple Watch Series 6 were. I just wanted to quickly address that.
Yep.
Like I said, there's no ECG and no blood oxygen sensor on the SE versus the Series 6. And then it uses a slower processor, an S5, which is versus the S6 on the Series 6, which is twice as
Mhm.
fast. So but like the S5 that the Watch SE uses is as fast as the current gen
Yeah,
Apple
yeah,
Watch
yeah.
Series
So if
5.
you
So
don't need
it's
the
not
health
a
stuff,
big
it's a
deal.
good option, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as for the other differences, we're going to need to test them to see like what battery life is like,
Yeah.
how responsive is the new WatchOS 7 stuff. So but it runs WatchOS 7. Both of them run on WatchOS 7, so all of the other software features like sleep tracking, they will be available on both watches.
Mhm. Very cool.
Uh
Hearing
yeah,
anything
so
about refresh rate at this point?
man, dude, if I could figure out
Yeah,
how
Apple
Apple likes
doesn't
to
really
quantify
make
specs,
certain of those stats as visible
it
as
does
they
not
should,
like
and
to
we're
share
also
specs.
we're washed a little coming out of all this news. I think overall, though, the iPad Air looks really compelling, looks really interesting. I think it also may fit into the design leaks we've heard about the next iPhone. So yeah, it kind of square edges, kind of maybe a design more reminiscent of the iPhone 4 and what those weird edges look like. And then, honestly, I miss that. So I like the
Yeah,
look of these
I'm
things.
on the iPad Air specs page, and they're like
Yeah.
10.9-inch, 2360 by 1640 at 264 ppi, wide color display P3 gamut.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Nothing about hertz. So enjoy that, everybody. We will hit up Apple to find out for you, but during
Okay.
this live stream, we might not
We're
be able.
hearing from some of our editors that it's pretty sure they're pretty sure it's 60 hertz just because Apple hasn't said
For the
anything.
Air.
I do
Yeah.
feel like I remember something happening last year around high refresh rates, but hey, I could be wrong. Yeah.
The Pro was, I think,
The Pro was high refresh rate
supposedly
for a very long
high
time,
refresh
and
rate.
honestly, that's the thing I want in all my screens. If you see a high refresh rate screen, even if it's 90 hertz, they look so good. They look so smooth, and I want all
I
my
know
devices
90
to be
hertz is
that
better
way.
than 60 hertz.
Yeah.
It's also like nice on a bigger screen like that.
It is
So
for sure. And I
the
think one of the latest rumors about the iPhone too is that Apple may not be even moving over to high refresh rate screens there. We may still be stuck at 60 this year. So That's a shame when so many Android
Yeah.
devices are giving us nice smooth screens now.
Yes.
Mhm.
So really quickly, the last thing that Apple dropped on us in terms of news, and after this, I'm gonna take a lot more questions from the live chat. Um, Tim Cook, we ran back to Tim Cook after the iPad news, and then he was like, "Oh, by the way, iOS 14 drops tomorrow. Hey, thanks a
Sneaky
lot.
dubs. They've done
Shame
that
you gotta
before,
take it
though.
first."
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, they do that a lot because they've already announced it at WWDC. You've
Yeah.
got iOS 14, iPadOS 14, watchOS 7, and tvOS. I can't remember the number, all
Something,
dropping
something.
tomorrow. Something, something. So there is a lot that's happening in the world of Apple. And those of you who are already holding on to iPhones should be looking out for the update to the new iOS to come. It seems like it had a lot of features. If you want a refresher on what that is, we've covered it in the past when we did WWDC in June. But now, questions from
Question.
the live chat. This is what we've been waiting for, haven't
We
we?
also have a lot of questions. So let me just say up front, like, hey, we've not touched these devices. We just saw the news like you guys did.
Oh yeah.
All we can do is offer our perspective. We haven't had hands-on time yet.
We are just telling you stuff that we know either from Apple or our own like company context from other businesses. Anyway,
Yes.
tvOS number was tvOS 14, by the way. So we have people asking about is it worth getting the Apple Watch 6 if you don't have any Apple Watch yet? I think you might want to start out with the SE if depending on like what your biggest
Depends.
yeah.
Here's the thing: is that I've always had a problem. I got the first gen Apple Watch, and I had that through Gen 2 and Gen 3, and I wanted to replace it, but because I spent $400 on an Apple Watch, I just was like, I'm gonna live with this for a little longer.
Yeah,
So I do
that's
think if
fair.
you want it, go for go for broke, go for the one that's a little more high end. I
It's
know that.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, to Harrison Croker, who asked the question, I think that it depends on your priorities. If you want to
Mhm.
just check it out and you don't want to spend too much money, if that like $130 difference means a lot to you, go for the SE. It's a little bit cheaper. But if you're really trying to get that bells and whistles experience and you've never had an Apple Watch before, the brand new flagship might just be the way to go if
It'll
you can
last
afford
you
it.
like my logic is that these things will last you longer if you invest more in them. Whereas if you get an SE, by next year, by 2 years, if you're actually really digging it, you're going to start looking into replacing that thing because you're going to want the new health features. So, you can always get these things, and here this is true for every device. Don't forget,
Yeah.
but you can get these things and you can return them if you don't actually, like it or
In
you think it's
countries
not
with
enough
return
value.
policies.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, another question we got was, are they going to have fingerprint sensor for iPhone 12? I think they should under these conditions. What are your thoughts? Sandeep, I agree with you. I
I would
prefer
love a
fingerprint
fingerprint
sensors
sensor.
more.
Yeah.
I like fingerprint sensors. I don't know why we decided to go. I mean, I know why we
Because
decided to go away from them, but it still
because
seems lame.
we needed displays all on the front screens. Fingerprint
Yes.
sensors weren't able to be underneath displays yet.
Or on the
Maybe we could
back
do that.
or
And Apple would never put a thing like that in the back because they like nice clean design. So
yeah.
I miss fingerprint sensors. I always found them much
Speaking
faster than Face ID. Yeah.
Yes. No, and speaking of the fingerprint sensor too, then they'd embed it into the power button for the iPad.
Yeah. So now it's
Um,
up top. Yeah.
yeah, so now it's up top and there's one there if you want to use it and it's more convenient. A lot of people were like, "Hey, this is a great idea." I was like, "Android phones have done this for a
Yeah.
while."
And maybe the iPhone will do
There
it
you
too
go.
instead of hiding it behind the display. So yeah.
Yeah, no, embedded into the power
Mhm.
button also was at the Surface Duos. The Surface Duo also has that. Sony phones also have had that for a while.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I mean, this is a good idea. I am all for the resurrection of fingerprint sensors. Someone
Sweet.
asked, Paul asked, when does Dark Sky get to all Apple devices, replacing Weather app? Who knows?
Who knows? Don't ask
But
us. We don't work for
iOS
Apple.
14, the iOS 14 demo did look like the weather app seemed like it already took in some of the dark sky feature. I don't know for sure.
Mhm,
We don't
mhm.
work at Apple like we
If
said.
I were Apple, I would still because I know a lot of people like the weather app because it's so basic and it doesn't have too many features. So I assume they would just bring in a couple of features here and there and keep dark skies like a separate thing for people who actually do want it. But yeah, I love
Yeah,
dark sky. Sorry, Android
would have been
users,
nice.
they ripped it away from you.
A lot of people are commenting because I think we had that refresh rate discussion.
Mhm.
A lot of people are talking about how in this day and age, for Apple to not have a high refresh rate screen for phones and tablets, I guess, is definitely like a shame.
There's
We've
a lot
got
of shame
someone.
in their screen tech, but if you want high refresh rate,
Yeah.
you pay for iPad Pro. That's kind of how it goes right now.
Yeah. Apparently, Code Red Tonio is so angry that they typed in caps. Apple for years has been giving iPhone users weak displays and charging you $1,000 plus text for a weak Retina display. It's bad, guys.
That's not true.
Please share
That's
your
not
thoughts.
true. I actually think weren't they the first phones to bring in Dolby Vision HDR? Like they've had good tech and they brought in OLED, after Android phones started using them, but they jumped on OLED. Like the screens have improved significantly, but then all of a sudden the new hot thing over the last couple of years is refresh rate, and Apple just didn't catch up with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
look, Apple plays catch up on certain fronts, but it does lead the way on others too. So we will have to see. I am going back up, but I might have to jump all the way back down. Now, someone was talking about xCloud, which I think is something you're more familiar with, Dev.
Mhm.
Can you use xCloud on iPads?
Uh, mm.
We don't know yet, do we?
That is, well, so go read our article about how Apple is allowing game streaming, but they're being very, very annoying and very particular for xCloud and Stadia because I believe the games you have to download them directly. Like you have to download something from within the App Store to play the games on cloud streaming. I don't know if they're going to end up charging more. They're certainly going to take a chunk out of Stadia and xCloud subscriptions if people do it on iOS devices. There's a lot we don't know because
There's a lot.
Microsoft and Google have not responded yet to all this. So it's messy. It's messy and it's not great, but hopefully within the year, you'll be able to play xCloud games on these devices. It would be nice.
We'll see. We'll see.
Mhm.
There are a lot of people commenting about iPhones not getting 5G or whether or not they'll get 5G. And some people are still kind of concerned about whether this event had iPhones. To reiterate, this was not an iPhone event. And we're hopefully going to see an iPhone event in October.
Just wait, guys. We
in a few
have
weeks.
many more weeks left in the year. Do not worry. Apple is not going crazy. They will release
We
new
will be
iPhones
here
this
again
year.
with another live
Yeah.
stream, perhaps. We'll
Yeah.
see.
For sure. And the 5G thing, like I think enough of the rumors point to, hey, at least the premium line, at least like the higher end versions, will have 5G. Is it? I know that's so check us out on the Engadget podcast where we will talk about
Yes.
the viability of 5G and everything because man, like people are so hyped for this, but wait till you use 5G and you learn you have to stand on a street corner and look at a pole and hope you get fast speeds, and that's the only place you get 5G, within hundreds of miles. That network needs a lot of room to grow. But hey, it's going to be nice for the people who have, who are actually within range of it.
I do think that this year isn't the year to get 5G just to like if you're not thinking of future proofing. If you just really want to use it now, I think the coverage is not widespread enough yet, especially for sub-6 5G, which is not sub-6 millimeter wave 5G, which to me where the real difference is. A lot of people, and you will see a lot of carriers like fire back at each other. Speaking of carriers, our owner is Verizon, by the way, but they have no control over editorial content. So you'll see.
Otherwise,
T-Mobile
we'd be a lot more excited about 5G, I think. But yeah.
We would be like, yay. No, there is a difference between the two different types of 5G, sub-6 and millimeter wave, which is sometimes known as ultra wideband. And I believe T-Mobile's network is on sub-6, which is more prevalent and easier to connect to, but doesn't bring as much of a speed difference as millimeter wave.
And by the way, Trillin, I think you can point people to our discussion on the Engadget podcast because you did dive into this in an episode.
Yes.
So
definitely tune into the Engadget podcast. Look for listen to all of them, right? Because we're fun.
We're all good.
You can also listen to the episode where we tackle how I tested the Galaxy S20 for 5G. It was very fun having to walk up and down a block in, I think, Greenpoint, Brooklyn, just to try to connect to this one node that I knew was working, because nowhere else in New York could I find a working millimeter wave node. But anyway,
I'm sure that's different now. I was just looking at the map here in Atlanta where it had just moved recently. Downtown Atlanta and a couple neighborhoods have 5G nodes, but nowhere else. And that is kind of the story you'll see over and over again. Yeah.
It's hard. It's going to take carriers a little longer to be able to get there. I'm going to keep looking at questions. Someone, Chen Liu, I think, is very upset that there's still no 4K streaming support for Netflix and YouTube on iOS. I don't know if that's an Apple problem or if it's a YouTube
4K. You mean 4K streaming via AirPlay to like a TV? Because you don't need.
Could be that. They're not very clear about it.
These are not 4K screens, folks. Like, and here's the thing: I'm the media guy. I'm the home theater guy.
Mhm.
I'm the one telling people, do not sweat so much about 4K screens that are, this small, that are smartphone small, or even tablet small. Like those screens got to be big, and you got to be right up to them to really tell the difference. So
Exactly.
yeah, you don't need to worry about 4K streaming there.
And
What's good is that you get Dolby Vision, so that's nice. Yeah.
right. I suspect that the reason that there's no 4K streaming from the YouTube service provider side is because like there's no 4K phone to stream to yet.
Yeah.
So it really
Yeah.
depends on what you're talking about.
I don't think the
Some
iPad
people ask,
resolutions are 4K yet either, which they're fine. They're good enough, folks. Your eyes will not see that 4K difference.
yes.
Mhm.
Someone asked for the podcast link because we shouted it out. We will be back here on the Engadget YouTube channel on Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. That's when we record the show live. But the
Mhm.
podcast itself is available on all podcast platforms,
Everywhere.
Spotify, iTunes, whatever you name it. We
Google
are on
Engadget
there.
podcast. You will find us. But I think Spotify is probably the easiest one, right? Because then you could just, as you're browsing your music, it's pop
Yep.
up. It's right there. Yeah.
Absolutely, exactly. So much easier that way. Some people are definitely agreeing with us about 5G not being the year for it.
Yeah. But hey, it is a good year to get a device with 5G because by next year, maybe things will look a little better and then you don't have to upgrade to a new phone. So,
Yeah.
there's that. But I would not sweat it too much. If you want to buy a new phone, it's still just, LTE.
We've got people also complaining about Apple's walled garden being and I quote John Doe, stinking desert, which, okay, that's a
Okay.
way to,
I
that's
mean,
a way
I
to describe
don't. Here's the thing. Like, I want open systems and everything, but we're seeing how these companies are kind of building this, how they're kind of balancing this, right? Because
Yeah.
Android is a completely open system, and then Google let all the developers be like, hey, here's an open system, make some tablet apps, and everyone was like, why? Give me a reason, give me a purpose. And there wasn't that push there. I feel like maybe Microsoft has come up with a good balance in terms of bringing apps into its ecosystems while still playing nicely with everybody else. And yeah, Apple is very closed, but because of that, they have better tablet support than anybody else. Windows still has crappy tablet apps. So
Yeah.
that is what you're getting with a closed ecosystem. That's always been Apple's way. No big surprise there.
Yeah.
Based on everything we're seeing today, I think the new Apple Watch is very nice. I think the new iPads are super good.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
All
I'm
right.
impressed, but it's Apple's closed. That's how it's always going to be.
I mean, this was an event with a lot of things. We're going
Yeah.
to wrap it up now, but if you want to join us again for another discussion, we will be, like I said, back here on Engadget's YouTube channel, 10 a.m. Eastern this Thursday to recap some of this, but some other news that came
All
out
the
this week as
news.
well.
Hey,
We always
there are some devices launching soon, so we will
exactly.
be talking about all those things we reviewed. Stay tuned to Engadget.com, especially tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day.
all week long we'll be here, but thank you guys so much for joining us. Keep staying tuned, and if you want to subscribe so that whenever we're on live again and you can ask us questions directly again, feel free to hit that button. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks for joining us, guys.
We out.